pleasant morning to you. The program is The Dailies, where we keep you updated with what is happening in the nation, where we are seeing that fresh attack again has happened, where about over 86 persons have been kidnapped again in Kaduna State. These and many other stories where we are also seeing still the issue concerning the soldiers that were being killed in Delta is still ongoing on the front page of most of the papers. So you can do well to join us via Facebook and YouTube. Drop your comments, your opinions, and your suggestions concerning any of the story that is of interest to you. I am Stella Elisha, and I'll be doing the program alongside Rachel Tanze. Good morning.
Good morning, Stella.
How you doing?
I'm fine. How about you?
Great, thank you so much. All right, we shall be going straight into the paper, starting with the Punch newspaper.
On the Punch newspaper, the big story, soldiers killing Army Delta community differ over reprisal as troops arrest 20. The writer saying Army accuses community of complicity. Defense headquarters releases photos, names of fallen soldiers. Delta governor visits Okoma, meets with JTF commander, reps urges restraint. IYC condemns attack. You can find details on page 2. Dollar supply rises to $11 billion. Naira closes 1,572 to a dollar. Cable cut telcos pledge 100% voice and data services today. We are looking forward to that. You can find details on page 22. Rep Summon Edun, RMAFC over judges' poor pay. With health salaries, SSANU NASU strike grounds varsity, and then you can find details on page 20. 2,814 schools registered for NSCDC security arrangement. This is coming from the commander, and we are seeing that it is obviously failing in Kaduna South, as we are seeing more and more kidnappings happening, and that of the school's children still in our minds, and hoping to see what will be done, because I believe that these children are in very harsh condition at the moment. That's the part that I can't think of, because we know that these people can't cater for them. In no way will they, even if they have the resources, they will not. And I'm just imagining what students and pupils are going through, and is something no child should go through. No human being should talk more of children and all of that. So I just hope that something is being done in areas that are prone to certain attack. This is where you see that the government is, I believe, deliberately refusing to take proactive measures. You are supposed to stop certain things from happening, because you know that there is 100% chance of something like that happening. Kaduna South have been under attack for years. For many, many years. This didn't just start. It's villages being razed, people being burned, killed, massacred. That's what happened in southern Kaduna. And knowing very well that we are now in a time of kidnapping, how would you sit down and tell me you do not see this going to happen very soon? That people are going to be kidnapped, and we are having children being kidnapped and all of that. And you can't help but wonder, when certain things keep occurring and is persistent, it is more consistent and persistent than our security in the country. Crime is becoming more of the order of the day, and then you wonder, why is an end to it taking long? You can't help but wonder that politics is being played with the lives of people in Nigeria, because when you see something that shouldn't even exist in the first place existing, you can't help but wonder, okay, fine, it is existing, but then you see it lingering longer than it should, and you know that this is something that is not above the Nigerian government down to the military, and then you can't just help but wonder, what is the aim behind all of these things? That certain people have been targeted for years and nothing has been done whatsoever to stop what is happening in their area. Certain people have been under attack for a very, very long time, and nothing has been done to secure the life and property of people in that area. And I'm talking precisely of southern Kaduna, alongside with other society that has been prone. If you look at the case of the Plateau, there was a time Birkin Ladi was under severe attack for years and years, and it wasn't the government that even came to their aid. It was the people of that community that woke up and say enough is enough. And that is what it looks like in Nigeria, that if you are not the one waking up and saying enough is enough, and if you're depending on the government of Nigeria to secure your life and your property, you are definitely going to die, because they have not been doing anything. And now we are seeing that for when it comes to Southern Kaduna, that has just been it. The government have not done anything about their situation over the years, and that is why the crime against the life of people there have been taking forms and have been succeeding. And it's tiring. It's tiring, but we are not going to stop talking about it, Sele. We will not, regardless of how it might look like an everyday thing. We refuse to develop a thick skin to the extent that we stop calling the government to book, because you need to come and answer to us. Stop playing politics with our lives. Stop playing politics with the property and the life of people. Stop it. If you are saying that these children are the future of Nigeria, then why are you allowing them to be treated like that? Why are you allowing them to be kidnapped? Why are you allowing them to be killed? Why are you allowing them to go through things like that? Because in the end, the youth are the ones at the receiving end of many of the things that are happening. Young people, if you were to go and take your statistics of all the people that have died in the past in communities, people that have been arrested and being pointed, accusing fingers to them by soldiers, police concerning attacks, it is the youth. And you will literally see old people deciding the fate of the youth of Nigeria, and you can see that they have no plan whatsoever for us to succeed in the future. And then it's very annoying, because I am also a youth of Nigeria, and I'm looking at what the government is doing about our future, and it's just absolutely nothing to write home about. And we can say the same thing for every other thing that is happening in the different parts of the country regarding security. And I just hope that the government of Nigeria wakes up. And Southern Kaduna is not just the issue of the state government. I want the federal government to step in. It's one thing for you to tell the troops that of what happened in Niger Delta, say go after those who happen to do this act against the military. It's another thing for you to give a standing order concerning what is happening in Southern Kaduna and say enough is enough. We are to bring an end to this. But nothing significant is being said about it. Nothing whatsoever is being said from the presidency concerning it. Only condemnation. But why you not taxing the army to go after these kidnappers by whatsoever means and all of that? So we want to see a government that truly have the people of Southern Kaduna in mind. And so far so good. I'm yet to see an administration. Buhari's administration did little or nothing. El Rufai as a governor did little or nothing. I'm waiting to see what the current governor will do concerning the people of Southern Kaduna, and what President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will do. Until then, I believe that they are playing with the lives and properties of people in that area, and we need voices to speak out for that place and let something truly be done about the safety of people in that area.
Richard, it's almost a year already. Not almost, it's a year already, ever since most of the governors that were being elected in the 28 states became governors of various states. And I clearly remember when each of us governors, House of Reps, senators were actually campaigning, there were various things they stated in their manifestos, stating the fact that I will do this, I will do that, if you give me your mandate, this is that, electricity will be available, security, I have all that it takes, I have the strategy, I have the blueprint, and all of those sweet words that were coming from our leaders, Nigerians heard. And believe you me, they are in power today because Nigerians believe that, you know what, if this governor comes to power, he will be able to do something, because we are tired of the former administration. And that is how elections have been in this country, where we see Nigerians are left between the devil and the deep blue sea. And then you see that they would rather choose for either the devil or the deep blue sea, regardless of which they feel is better for them as it is. Now let's go down to the issue of the Kaduna. Rachel, to me, if you ask any Nigerian outside there, or maybe you need to take a walk to Kaduna and ask the indigents of that state, what do they feel concerning this whole thing? It looks more like an attack to Kaduna than what it is. It looks more than just what the eye can see. I mean, you'll not be taken away by the colors of a flower, forgetting the fact that for every rose it has its tongue. So if you're ready to pluck the flower, you have to also be ready to actually have an injury. And that is what is looking in that whole state. Richard, I refuse to accept the fact that over 400 people have been abducted in that state in less than 20 days. Rachel, my heart beats for a mother out there who cannot just help but fathom what is happening to her son or her daughter because she really cannot tell. Today's date is 19th of March and we have few days left for the 20 days, I guess they gave ever since those kids were being kidnapped, for the government to produce a ransom of 1 billion naira. And we're not done with that. We saw 14 again were being kidnapped.
Yeah, we saw that.
And again, we're seeing another 87 or so are being kidnapped. What is the problem? What is it that these people kept in Kaduna State that they rather choose people? Why do you go for vulnerable people who cannot fight for themselves? There was a time it was all about massacre, mass burial in various parts of the country. And right now you have resolved to abducting people. Now would the people rather choose to be killed or to be kidnapped? Because none is even better if you are asked to choose. So what are we saying? You rightly mentioned it looks as if the government is not providing anything for its people. So you have to provide electricity for yourself, you have to provide security for yourself, you have to provide water for yourself, you provide virtually everything for yourself. Will I say the government is not trying at all? They are trying what they can do. But how about, let's take a look at where their priority lies. Here we are having the Senate, we are having the President, talking about the fact that we have lost our soldiers to a communal clash. And I remember you yesterday stating the fact that while are we going to be having top rank men going there, it looks more like an attack than just a murder.
Yeah.
Because it looked more like there was a trap that was set for them and they walked right into
it. Looks like that.
Now, that is just a story on it. Let's just forget, keep that at the side, not really forget it, but keep that at the side. Let's look at what is happening in Kaduna. I remember a number of people came out and were talking the fact that Erufai wasn't helping when he was the governor. And immediately we had signing, a lot of people were applauding. He was trying to reconcile whatever religion was there so that there would be peace. And then again, we're having another attack. Now we're talking about the fact that over 2,000 schools have been provided. We have more than these schools in Nigeria. So now we have to talk about how are the security agency being stationed in various schools. How come we keep have people being abducted right under the government and nothing is being done? How do they move these people, Rachel? I don't believe they have this. Most times we hear that when they come for abduction, they mostly use motorcycles and then shooting all around.
To carry over 200.
Yes, you can't carry. So definitely some of them will be walking on foot and then they will be shooting just to scare people away. I really think there's more the government needs to do. We made mention of the fact that we have just over 200,000 army men. How about let's go to the soldier, to the police? How many do we have? The civil defense, how many do we have? The Air Force, how many do we have? Are the numbers well that they can actually cover the whole of the country and to protect people? Now we're just talking about Kaduna. We really do not know where their next target are. We know the way the weather is. It's not for them to change. If there's no water, no food, they'll change to another place where there's water. Is the government thinking in that direction? Which state do we think is another soft target? We saw what happened in Plateau State. That was on broad daylight, 2 p.m. People were buying and selling, and then we saw what happened there. So we are calling on the government, because I mentioned it here, Rich. I said the fact that whether the society accepts it or not, the press is the fourth arm of democracy in this country. And if we don't bring all of this thing to the forelight for them to see, maybe they are forgetting what they are supposed to do. I keep hammering on the fact that, you know what, protecting life and property is your #1 responsibility. Do not think that building roads, you are doing Nigerians a favor. Of course not. It's our money that you are using to make the roads. So it's not as if you're doing us a favor or building of schools or any infrastructure that is there. But please, protect life and property. And I think this is what Nigerians are pleading. We're here on this show not to come here and condemn them, but to give hope to Nigerians. Yes, we're in a tunnel right now, but there will be light eventually. But I'm hoping that the government will be able to give Nigerians the hope that, you know what, we can still stay back in our country. We don't need to jump out to another country. Because believe you me, it's not just all about studies or job that Nigerians are living. Even because of the fact that the country is not secured anymore is the reason why people have a reason to live. So we hope that the government will honestly do well by us by doing the right thing, Rachel.
Still on the Punch newspaper, AFCC recovers 324 houses document for Kano pensioners. 87 abducted in fresh Kaduna raid, Borno bombers dies. You can find details on page 2. Tension in Ogun as transport unions clash over ticket sales. That's all the news on the Punch newspaper.
All right, let's take a look at what the Vanguard newspaper have. And on energy crisis, we have vandalism, death, and others hinder 8,000 megawatts of supply. This is a report which you can find on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. Also, we have terrorists kidnap 87 in fresh Kaduna attack. And on Edo, Guba APC unveils its running mate with the rider. Tinubu predicts victory for APC. Also present a party flag, and then PDP picks Oge as Egilado's running mate. And then we also have other rider under that story. Nigeria doomed without new constitution. This is coming from Sanwo-Olu and others, so you can look up more of that on page 8. The big story, the aftermath of soldiers killing. Bloodbath in Delta, villagers flee and hide in forests. We have quite a number of riders under this. Military on rampage, arrest community leader and others over alleged harboring of perpetrators. We have troops stormed by Yelsa community, Rans building, and some feared dead. Also, we are having what triggered the bloodbath. This is coming from inhabitants of that community. Result to propaganda by Okwama community. Chaos total condemnable. This is coming from the army. How soldiers were ambushed and killed in Delta community, coming from the Major General. And then we also have killing of the 16 soldiers by the youth unacceptable, also coming from Defense Minister. Senate charges security agency to smoke out undesirable outlaws. Senator Undume and Reps Balami mourns the Major Denjuma Shafat, which was the colonel that died, the major that actually died. And also we are having, there will be measured response. Injurious consequences for the perpetrators coming from the defense headquarters. We have a picture of the fallen soldiers that died, so we can see that the army have released their photos for everybody to see. I hope that the same way we have the pictures of our fallen heroes, we look forward to seeing the pictures of those who are sponsoring all of these things that are happening as well, being put on the front page of our papers as well. Still on the Vanguard, Ibadan Circular Road, over 6,000 residents to be rendered homeless. More detail on page 10. And still on the budget padding, OB calls for review of the 2024 budget. Downside of the paper, Sanu Nasu Grand Varsity over withheld salary since yesterday. More detail found on page 9. And on the issue of the undersea cable cord service now restored, Telcos and NCC confirmed, so you can find more for those who have been finding difficulty using of the voice and SMS and all of that. Also here we're having African Wrestling Championship, Nigerian wrestlers go gold-wear in Egypt. More detail found in the paper. We have a column from Dakuku, which you can find the issue of the current national blackout and more of that inside the paper. And that's all on the Vanguard newspaper.
On Nigerian Tribune, restructuring Nigeria has only 2 options coming from Ayoku. Abuja should not dictate to states coming from Sanwo-Olu. New constitution or nothing coming from Adebanjo. Amachi Fayemi Omosun Aribesola speak on Nigeria's future. National Assembly should give a new constitution in 6 months coming from SAN. You can find details on page 2. Gunmen abduct 87 in Kaduna village. Alleged terrorism finance, court orders Binance to release data to EFCC. The big story on the paper: Ondo APC members advance support for Jimo Ibrahim. Princess Oladuni Odu Yele Omogunwa, and we have Oleye Logun Tayo Olasadura says whether direct or indirect, Ibrahim will win. And then we can see they spoke at the well-attended training of grassroots officers of Aseyori movement, Ibrahim's campaign organization from all the local government areas of Ondo North last week in Owo. And that is a picture story we have on the paper, and that's all the news on Nigerian Tribune.
On the Guardian newspaper, inflation and rising construction costs. Low middle class differ home ownership plans for food, where we have here with 30% of income needed for mortgage is difficult for workers to earn 100,000 to own a house. So very difficult for those who are actually earning 100,000 to own a home. And then February food inflation is about 37.92%. So we can see that people would rather use their income to actually get food to eat rather than talking about building, because we know that right now even the cost of building a house is quite expensive. So that is what is on the front page and the big story on the Guardian newspaper. Court convicts 5 for murder in kidnapping in Rivers State. Settle Sanu Nasu members urgently coming from the NLC telling the government. Looting depict misrule, misery and DKC in the society, and editorial on page 12. Tinubu meets Edo APC chiefs over the state crisis. Sanwo-Olu and ex-governors orders call for a new constitution. Also, we have on terrorism, Ohanaeze cautioned Tinubu as gunmen abduct dozens in fresh Kaduna attack. More detail found on page 6. Implementation hurdles for copious provisions in the new Electricity Act, that you can find on page 4. Metering gaps remain despite the 273.3 billion naira loan to discourse for meters and others, which you can find on page 2. And that is all on the Guardian newspaper.
On the Daily Independent newspaper, several fared killed as soldiers invade Bayelsa community and burn houses. Will be called for total review of 2024 budget. The big story on the paper: Ayeoku Ibori Sanwo-Olu orders seek new constitution. Nigeria can't survive presidential system, coming from Arabessola. And we have Ezekome urges new constitution through popular referendum. You can start with the details on the front page. Tinubu names Sani as executive scribe, CEO, and Marjorie Education Commission. Details can be found on page 6. On Delta killing, Senate backs Tinubu on directive to fish out killers of soldiers. How soldiers were killed in Delta community. Statement from a retired general. Voice data services affected by undersea cable cuts restored, coming from the NCC. 2024 Edo Guba Tinubu presents APC flag to Akpebola, optimistic of victory. You can find details on page 7. Don't drag me into alleged $6.2 million fraud, MFLS ex-aid tells security agencies. Panic as CBN sacks 5 directors in fresh reorganization. At the downside of the paper, 10th Senate legislative agenda will enhance Nigeria's standard of living, says Akpabio. We are looking forward to seeing that. You can find details on page 6, and that's all the news on Daily Independent.
On the Metrics newspaper, court orders banners to share data with EFCC amid allegation of terrorism financing. More detail in the paper. On African Games 2023, Falconets peep Uganda 2-0 to seal the final spot. You can find detail of that on page 16. Getting the People's Constitution top agenda as the Patriots hold National Constitutional Dialogue, where we are having Ezebo and others says constitution amendment not solution to Nigeria's problem. And I've said that a number of times, Rachel. The fact that regardless of what system of government we're running in the state, regardless of whether we change and keep reviewing our constitution over and over. The problem is with the people, not with the law. We fail to be law-abiding citizens. We have politicians and leaders that are above the law. We have constitutions that are being reviewed to actually fit certain people's pattern. So who are we deceiving at the end of the day? Of course, there is a need for a review because looking at things that are happening, we should have a change. But what happens when the people do not want to change with the times? That is what we have here. So regardless of what is happening, I remember you and I talked about the fact where we saw the former president saying the fact that democracy is not for us in the country. And we stated it clearly, Rachel. Democracy is for any country that is ready to pay the price of what it means to practice democracy.
Absolutely.
If you are not ready to pay the price, then we'll only be deceiving ourselves, whether we choose to go back to maybe living a presidential or federalism, or even going to total capitalism, however we choose to do it. If we're not ready to live by the times that are things that are happening, we'll only keep reviewing the constitution, change it, make new ones, but still amending it will not make a difference if the people are not ready to amend their ways and actually suit it. So let us just see how this whole review, change of our constitution and all of that will go eventually.
I think specifically for those constitutions that can be misinterpreted, those are the constitutions that need review and definitely an upgrade. Our constitution needs that. Will it even be better if we have an overhaul for the constitution? Yes, but just as you said, Sele, that isn't really the problem here. The problem is that there's no rule of law and certain people are obviously above the law. Are certain things important to add into the constitution? Yes. Are some constitutions need to be made clear and break them down more into subsections? Oh, definitely yes. And that is what we're looking forward to seeing being done when it comes to the constitution. And it shouldn't just be, swept under the carpet as if it's not that important. We don't want constitution that can just be fine-tuned to whatever tune that it is needed to be at a specific period of time. No, we don't want that. So let something be done about the Nigerian constitution. And above all, just as you said, it's not about the constitution. It's about making sure that nobody is above the constitution. Because in the end, even if we fix the constitution and we still have people that are above the law, we are still where we are yesterday, and we're not going to make any change or grow regarding Nigerian constitution.
So I think even after the review, it's important that everybody should just have this copy of the Constitution, because sometimes our rights are being trampled on and we do not know, because you don't even know what the Constitution says about your duties and your rights, and then things are being done. So I think it's important we revisit that again. The big story is talking about the worsening insecurity in the country, where Peter Obi is lamenting. He says Nigeria now rank among the riskiest countries to live, as over 7,000 is kidnapped. In 1 year, says Nigeria now rank among the riskiest country to live, as over 7,000 people have been kidnapped in a year. Anxiety as gunmen abduct 87 in Kajuru village. Again, CDS arrived Kaduna as troop rescue 16 adoptee in Kajuru, Kaduna. You can find more detail of that story on page 2. NIMC NCC partner on NIN SIM linkage process. You can find detail in the paper. And on the issue of hardship, SANU NASU commenced strike on ground varsity since yesterday. That has been going on. Voice data service affected by the undersea cable cord restored, coming from NCC. More detail on page 10. Also here we're seeing Wike seek reps approval to borrow 500 billion naira to finance the 2024 budget. More detail can be found in the paper. Defense headquarters releases the names and the pictures of the 17 gallant soldiers that were being killed in Okwama community of Delta State, which we still see the picture as well on the front page, paying our tribute to our fallen heroes. I hope we can do better so that if these soldiers would die, they would die for a just cause and not for something as flimsy as a communal clash. So we just really send our condolences to their families that they left behind, and that as a country will do better to protect our security men from such. And that's all on the Metrics newspaper. But before we continue further, Rachel, we've said quite a lot and we'd love to hear from our viewers as well. So please do well to drop your comment on our Facebook and YouTube. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this timeout.
Make your everyday informative, make your everyday count. Know your world, daily affairs, national and international, with authentic news events as they unfold on Global News and Zoom on Nigeria, Monday to Friday at 1 p.m.
Welcome back. Still the dailies. We have been looking at a number of stories on the paper where the military have released the names and the pictures of the fallen heroes that died in Delta State, and also fresh 87 persons have been kidnapped in Kaduna again, where we're seeing that the troops were able to rescue about 16 of them. So we are hoping that over 400 that have been kidnapped in Kaduna will be restored back in the next few days. I'm Stella Elisha. I still have Rachel Tanzi with me. Thank you.
You're welcome, Sarah.
All right, let's take a look at the Nation newspaper as our next paper.
The big story on the paper, APC, Ondo APC members advance support for Jimo Ibrahim, where we can see picture stories showing their activity. Army to Delta community identify killers, the slain 17 unveiled. 86 abducted in Kaduna. And on Edo 2024, we have Opebolo Idahosa get Tinubu's backing, Olubadan Fidal for Mapo. You can find details on page 27. Services affected by undersea cable cord restored, says NCC. After sacking 12 more CBN directors to go. Details can be found on page 4, and that's all the news on the Nation newspaper.
On Nigerian News Direct, court orders Binance to release identity of terrorism financiers on its platform to the EFCC. More detail found in the paper. And on Naira devaluation, pension fund asset declined by $18.9 billion in 1 year. Bandits launch a fresh attack in Kaduna community, abducts 87. Data voice service now restore NCC main one are saying more detail on page 29. And on the CSR, Fidelity Bank feeds over 3,000 families in Zamfara community. We hope more banks will actually key into this initiative to do more by giving back to the society. And on the issue of the unpaid salaries, Oshun, Kwara, Ondo, and other varsities comply as SANU and NASU issue 7-day warning strike. And then coming from the SANU president, he said no government representation has actually reached out to the non-academic union. FUD issue 1-week ultimatum for payment or threaten a prolonged strike. NLC stand in solidarity with joint union presses for a timely salary settlement, and we hope that soon we'll begin to hear negotiation coming from the government so that these students will not end up paying for, the crime that he actually did not commit. We have a picture story on the front page. We can see the governor of Lagos State with other governors there. Can do well to find more detail. And then still what the president have to say concerning the Edo 2024 with presenting the flag bearer and other people as well that will be involved in the campaign and election. And that's all on our Nigerian News Direct newspaper.
On New Telegraph newspaper, on ESA SAC directors refused to sign retirement letters, a statement coming from the Central Bank of Nigeria. Undersea cable damage, telcos restore service to 90% capacity. A statement from the Senate President, our legislative agenda will enhance living standards. You've abandoned the people, Labour Party tells reps members. 4.1 billion naira fraud, EFCC hands over 324 recovered houses to Kano pensioners. You can find details on page 3 and 7. How past governors cause setback for Ekiti. This is coming from Afe Babalola. The big story in Kaduna, fair tension as bandits kidnap 87 loot shops in fresh attack. 48 hours after abducting 14 residents as Kajuru Chukun local government areas become hotbeds of kidnapping and banditry. You can find details on page 2. Pay varsity workers avoid strike outcome, NLC tells the federal government. On budget padding, review 2024 budget funds deployment to critical areas, a statement from Peter Obi. Unlawful arrest and detention, court dismisses Kanu's lawyers' appeal against police and DSS. Adopt 2024 confab report, Ayoku tells the federal government. Details can be found on page 4. And from the defense minister, killers of 17 officers, soldiers must face justice. At the downside of the paper, we have a study that says U.S. agency bans asbestos, says it's carcinogenic. You can find details on page 7. And that's all the news on New Telegraph newspaper.
On the Blueprint newspaper, still from Delta State, Senate backs Tinubu charge to military over killing of officers and soldiers. More detail found on page 6 of the Blueprint newspaper. And on our 1999 Constitution, here we are having saying that the Constitution lacked legitimacy expected of diverse society. This is coming from Anyoku, which you can find inside the paper. Farmers, agriculture firm yet to pay 380.9 billion naira CBN intervention loans. This is from business. You can find more in the paper. Nike unveils New Jersey for Super Eagles. You can find more inside the paper. Insecurity in Kaduna with 86 and fresh attack, 466 kidnapped in 19 days. This is an investigation. Expert lists non-persecution of corporate, poor topography, and others as the reason for inversion. Army accuses Okwama community of propaganda. You can find all of that in the paper. How 28 MDAs illegally withdrew 13.95 trillion naira. This is an audit report. And also Environment Ministry tops AUGF blames weak internal control system. And I remember before we had the budget where we had the department and the agents were being asked to present their audited report, and I think this is the reason we've been having back and forth and all of that. So we hope that there'll be more internal control, more auditing, and then all of that, so that we don't keep having repetition of, you hear that reports have not been audited for the past 6 years, 5 years, 3 years, on all of that, and money is being, sink into things that do not have meanings. Also on the international scene, coming from the EU, they said Gaza now world's biggest open-air graveyard. You can find why the EU is saying that concerning Gaza. 12.7 billion naira released for provision of knitters in military barracks. This is an official saying that. You have failed the people, LPH's own reps members, and I think this is not just all about Labour Party, but every leader have actually failed its people. The mandate, you actually said, I promise when I come back, I'll build this bridge, I'll build that. And then we'll see that some of them immediately after election, Rachel, they don't even visit home. Their numbers are no longer going. But believe you me, 3 years down, their numbers will start going, because they need your votes again to remain there. So I think it's very important that Nigerians should use this time to be very smart and wise, and then just look at their representatives, how they are behaving. This will give them an idea who to elect next time, or how not to be taken away by sweet mouths coming from some of our leaders regarding what they are supposed to do. Downside of the paper, we have OAU Sanu Nasu protest, short offices, Uni Ilori advert exam disruption. You can find more. We also saw pictures on for that of University of Jos as well, which was shut down when the students were left outside because they do not have access into the school. And that's all on a Blueprint newspaper.
On Leadership newspaper, soldiers, killers won't escape justice, coming from defense ministers. Perform or be sacked, Wike tells FCTA permanent secretaries. We have a fact-checked customs reopens border in Kamba area of Kebbi. And we have trending functional oil drilling rigs increased to 16. This was confirmed by OPEC. You can find details on page 2. And in Nigeria's FX crisis depends on solving institutional challenges. Coming from an analyst, says Goldman orders 1,200 naira to $1 forecast unlikely in short term. You can find details on page 7. Sanwo-Olu Ayeoku Adebanjo orders clamor for new constitution. The big story on the paper, bandits sustain attacks on Kaduna, abduct another 86. Outlaws raided Kajuru Sunday night, 10 days after terrorists yet to contact families of 287 students. Defense chief visits Kaduna as governor says school children will return safely. And we also have the faces of soldiers killed in Okwama ambush. All details can be found on page 4. Labour Party lawmakers continue fight over convention. Non-academic staff strike grounds varsities. AFCC recovers 324 houses for Kano pensioners. You can find details on page 9. And then APC will win Edo Guber election, says Tinubu. And that's all the news on Leadership newspaper.
Let's take a look at the Business Day newspaper with an analysis that said Nigeria at wit's end as oil thieves overrun surveillance. You can find more detail of why we keep having the issue of oil theft and then why we can't meet our quota, because we are having that these oil thieves have actually overrun the surveillance. So you can find more detail of all of that. Court orders billionaires to release Nigerians' data to EFCC. More detail of that can be found here, and this is an order that came from the Federal High Court in Abuja, ordering them to actually give the EFCC the information of Nigerians trading in its platform, so they will be able to trace if there are people who are actually financing terrorism and other things that are illegal in the country. We have a picture story for a picture story here that took place in River State here, Cross River State Raba. So you can do well to find more detail of that paper, and that's all on Business Day newspaper.
On Punch Sport Extra, Chukwueze releases first Serie A goal. Ashola makes history in Bayern FC, in Bay FC NWSL debut. And on African games, we have Isekiri Consider, Olajide, and others reach 100 meters final. That is for athletics. And you can find more details inside the paper on page 2. Ghana-Nigeria friendly knocks for Nike over new Eagles jersey. Akpom admits difficult time after Eagles snub. Details can be found on page 7. The Ayu brothers kudos in Pate out. And then we have Alimi, I was harassed by Ibadan fans. Owoni's Forest in relegation waters. Stalin apologizes for penalty miss. Ahmad relishes dream and gold. And for table tennis, we have Asa dethrones Aruna as Africa's #1. Raymond Stars win trials of Gumbote. You can find details on page 6. The big story is Super Sam. Gutsy Osai Samuel, the hero in Trabzonspor, Fenerbahce's brawl. And then we have Infantino, pitch invasion unacceptable. And that's all the news on Punch Sports Extra.
Right, let's take a look at the last paper, which is the Pinterest, talking about schools or teenagers papers that are capturing that. Abuja Wall Academy to revolutionize education in Nigeria with new campus. And then Nigeria's Wilkins School emerged winners of the World Mathematics Tournament. You can find how they did that as an encouragement to our students to also study well. One day principals seek abducted school children's release. You can find detail of that. And we have other column for lifestyle, career, well-being, and some short stories you can also read to your children on page 10 of the paper. And that's all on Teen Trust newspaper, and also how far we can go on the program this morning. Thank you, Rachel, for always doing this for me. Thank you also to our viewers. Thank you to our supporters. Thank you to the crew members and every other person that made this program to be on air today. Until we come your way, do have a blessed day ahead.